if you're thinking of you want to buy a 500cc UCE, and first off, what would you do once you got the bike home? Anything we could think of to start off with? So we'll start scratch on the 500. First off, you'd do with the 500cc motor would be remove the Bosch spark plug and replace it with an NGKBPR6ES. And the reason you do that is the spark plug that comes with the classic 500 isn't much of a spark plug to start with, and it's prone to fouling, and that'll knock you around straight off, and you'll have start-up problems, you'll have it bogging down, it won't be a very comfortable bike to ride. So that'll be one of the first things you'll do if you're classic, will be get rid of the spark plug. Okay, we've got both bikes under control now, they're both ready to roll. So on the classic 500, the sweet spot for running it in is 3000 revs. On the 650 Interceptor, sweet spot where you can up until 500 kilometres run it up to 4000 revs. The difference between both bikes, on the classic 500 there's no rev counter. On this bike you've got a rev counter. One you can do 50 kilometres an hour, which is the 500. This one you can run it up to 80 kilometres an hour. So you're fairly well safe on this one, but here's a little trick I've got if you do happen to purchase a classic 500. If you swing over to eBay, you can buy a thing called a tiny tack, like so, and you pick these up for about 12 bucks. So example, my bike with a 500. You swing over here, you mount this tidy tack in this position here. It's only got one lead, runs down, just wraps around the spark plug, lead up the top here, turn on your ignition, and it's that simple. And for 12 bucks you have a tacho on your sausage dog's wrong, guys, see? Yeah, so for $12 you've got a tacho on your 500cc bike, and you know exactly after that what is the sweet spot on that bike when you're running it in, so you don't do any lugging or anything on that bike, because that bike's a very easy bike to lug. Let it idle for 2 minutes, and then that'll give me time to put on my riding gear and go out and then do me running on the particular bike and take her out and have a bit of a burn. That's the sort of pattern I'm going to follow with this bike. Now if you say to yourself, oh, why not let it idle for a little while longer or something, well, it's not going to make any difference, because this bike here would probably be the same, although I couldn't guarantee it. But to give you an idea, when I put on oil changes on the 500, say working on a 10 or 15 degrees Celsius day, from a straight out cold motor, I could come out, kick it over for 2 minutes, jump on the bike, I could ride 25 to 30 kilometres, which is pushing close on 20 mile, come back, drop the oil, and the oil would still only be finger warm to the touch without worried about it burning you or anything like that. And that's how long it took a classic 500 oil to warm up, so virtually very close to half hour, and it was only lukewarm. So it takes a long time for the oil to warm up. This bike I don't know yet, because I haven't done an oil change at this stage, but you know, I'll get an idea later on when I do that 20 mile lap. But to give you an idea, you know, this bike might follow the same pattern. It might take a long time for the oil to get to that temperature, so it's not, you know, you could set the bike here for maybe a long time and let them idle. The motor might get hot, but the oil won't get hot. As a rule, I'd really take the 500s out for only about 10 or 15 minutes for the first run, until they do at least 100-150 mile, because they've got a habit of running a little bit hot first off, and you know, 10 or 15 minutes, take them out, bring them back, give them a few hours to cool down, do a few heat cycles like that. I've noticed on the 650 they don't seem to run hot, you know, when you come back from a run they don't smell warm or anything from their run. So it's a bit different, but I'm still with this 650. I'm only taking it out on 10-minute bursts. Well, not actually a burst, just run around town, 10 minutes out, bring it back, just park it here, let it cool down for several hours, take her out again next day, so there's no hurry. That's the way I'm going to do that. Just using revs up to 4,000 revs at the moment, which can give me, although I haven't had it up to 80 kilometres an hour, but that gives me a speed of 80 kilometres an hour, but I haven't tested it out along the road yet. If you're running in the classic 500, that gives you a speed, what they recommend in the beginning. It's a very old school style with it, but they really like you to do only 50 kilometres an hour. But what I do when I'm running in the 500s, I just run them along, keep the sweet spot around 3,000 revs from start, and I've never had any problems. The only thing I don't recommend you do with a classic 500 is, in the very beginning, touch the exhaust or the air cleaner, and in that running period just keep it factory standard, run it like that, and you know, everything should be sweet. What I can say over the last couple of years, the internals of the Enfields are a lot cleaner when you do oil filter changes compared to what they were, say, 4 years back. So 2015 motors earlier, especially in the classics, they were always loaded with all sorts of junk and rubbish that used to come out of them, and sometimes I used to do an oil change maybe at least 3 times in the first 500 kilometres. Sometimes at 100 kilometres, then at 3, and then 500 kilometres, and you would really be surprised at the rubbish and metal and all the other crap that come out of them, and it was a worthwhile investment to do it. I've noticed now, and I've had all classic 500s from 2011 up to 2019, they are a lot cleaner inside their motor now when you do an oil change compared to the rubbish that used to come out. And you know, I remember going back 3 or 4 years ago, they must have been using cotton gloves in there, and all the rubbish off the cotton gloves when they were assembling the motor would come out of the motor when you did the oil changes, and it was in the filters or the screens, and you'd see all this rubbish come out into it, so it was catching in their gloves when they were doing the assembly. You don't see that in the latest motors, and hopefully you won't see it in these 650s, so you know, they've put their act together and they do a lot better job now. So just to do a recap on this, probably with this particular motor I think you should be fairly well safe to go from 0 to 500 kilometres and give yourself the oil and filter change by the dealer or whoever's going to do it, unless you plan on doing it yourself. If you had the classic 500, I would seriously think about still doing an oil and filter change yourself at 200, and then the dealer do it at 500, just for peace of mind, and get that rubbish out of the motor first. So that's something to think about. Now back to you guys that are thinking of buying a classic 500. If you use that tacho idea of mine, and when you run them in, just work on the first 3 gears, keep the revs around that 3,000. That means you won't get into any problems with lugging the motor. It'll pull sweetly around those 3,000 revs. And what I say, you know, especially in Australia where the in-town limit's 50 kilometres an hour, so you're only doing 30 mile an hour, and that third gear's up around that 3,000 revs, you'll find that bike runs really well. And in that running in period, I found that, you know, those first 3 gears are really good around town up to 30 mile an hour, because once you're swinging into fourth in the other ones, and you'll know when you're lugging the bike, because it'll start rocking and jerking back and forth, and the bike won't pull as well. But in those first 3, you'll find that that sweet spot, and you'll be surprised at how good that little $12 tachometer is. And you know, it's money well spent, and then after you finish with it, you can either toss it in the bin or keep it with your next bike, and you find that was $12 well spent. And you know, how else can you get anything so cheap? It'll help you so much. Okay, we'll forget about the 500 side of it now, and we'll get back to this one. So yeah, at this stage, the this bike here is due for a first service at 500. So like I said, I can run it to a maximum of 4,000 revs at the moment, up until it hits 5,000 at the first part of the break-in, where it gets its oil and filter change and the tappet's adjusted. I think so far the bike's running well. There's no drama in any area. I've got nothing to complain about that I think needs rectifying or anything like that. I think later on I'm going to go for an exhaust swap, sports exhaust, a few other things, so that'll be something, it'll be coming shortly. In actual fact, I've already ordered that exhaust and some other stuff to go with the bike. We'll see how that performs, so that'll be worth seeing. And I'll just run it in gently, and I think it's very important to run these in gently, and I think long term it'll pay the dividends, because I have found out on previous Enfields that if you run these in gentle, long term you get a much better bike and a more powerful bike compared to if you run them in fast, and they break down under pressure and you have problems with them. So that's what I'm looking at. Treat this bike a little bit more with respect, run it in carefully, give it the few heat cycles I'm going to run it through. So, you know, I'll take it out, like I mentioned earlier, run it for 10 or 15 minutes, bring it back, park it here, and then leave it for the rest of the day, or late that afternoon I might take it out again several hours later, take it out for another 10-minute run, bring it back and do the same, because I'm in no big hurry to run it in, and you know, I'll follow that cycle and just see if this idea works on this particular bike and how it handles it, and then we'll see how things go and if it made any difference before I throw those sports exhausts on it and the other stuff and see how it performs. So we'll go from there. So I hope you find a bit of this interesting, and I might even include that user manual recommended run-in, which you can have a bit of a look at that too. And once again, thanks for tuning in and taking a look.